Good morning and welcome to the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television on this Monday morning. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor with you. Let us begin by taking a look at the top stories in the headlines. Prime Minister says unity and love are the mantra to addressing Kashmir issue during his monthly radio address Mann Ki Baat. Home Minister likely to lead all-party delegation to state on 3rd of September. Three more died due to floods in Bihar, taking death toll to 156. Centre asks state to submit memorandum at earliest on damages, assures all help. French defence firm DCNS moves Australian Supreme Court seeking injunction against the Australian newspaper from further publishing leaked scorpion documents, seeks court order to hand over documents in paper's possession. Dozens killed in Syria as the Turkey continues to target Kurdish-held areas. Turkish military says those killed were militants. Monitoring group says they were largely civilians. And US Open kick-starts today. Defending champion Novak Djokovic, Andy Murray and Rafael Nadal among top contenders in the men's singles. Serena Williams to aim to break Steffi Graf's Open-era record. Well, our top story this morning, Prime Minister Narendra Modi made a fresh bid for peace in the Kashmir Valley by reaching out to the people of the state through his monthly radio program, Mann Ki Baat. Now, the Prime Minister spoke about unity and love being the basic mantras for addressing the Kashmir problem. He also used the opportunity to target those punishing innocent children to take up violence. Prime Minister Modi said that those doing this will be answerable to these children in the future. Modi also said that all political parties have spoken in one voice of the Kashmir issue, sending out a strong message to divisive forces. Now, speaking about the loss of lives, the Prime Minister said that the loss is not just that of Kashmir or Kashmiris, but that of the entire country.
कश्मीर की स्थिति के संबंध में देश के सभी राजनीतिक दलों ने मिलकर के एक स्वर से कश्मीर की बात रखी, दुनिया को भी संदेश दिया, अलगाववादी तत्वों को भी संदेश दिया। जो लोग इन छोटे छोटे बालकों को आगे करके कश्मीर में अशांति पैदा करने का प्रयास कर रहे हैं, कभी न कभी उनको इन निर्दोष बालकों को भी जवाब देना पड़ेगा कि एकता और ममता, ये दो बातें मूल मंत्र में रही और हम सभी का मत है, 125 करोड़ देशवासियों का मत है, गांव के प्रधान से लेकर के प्रधानमंत्री तक का मत है कि कश्मीर में अगर कोई भी जान जाती है, चाहे वह किसी नौजवान की हो या किसी सुरक्षा कर्मी की हो, ये नुकसान हमारा ही है, अपनों का ही है, अपने देश का ही है।
Meanwhile, former Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah has lauded Prime Minister Narendra Modi for taking up the Kashmir situation in his radio address. While taking to Twitter, Omar Abdullah said, "Good to see Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji continuing where he left off after meeting opposition parties in Delhi last Monday." Meanwhile, reacting to Modi's observation on youth being pushed towards stone pelting, Omar Abdullah said, "Unfortunately, a lot of these youngsters have been pushed there by our collective mistakes and mishandling of the Jammu and Kashmir situation." Omar Abdullah in the past had criticized Prime Minister Modi for not making mention of the Kashmir situation in his earlier Mann Ki Baat address. Meanwhile, the Congress and the other opposition parties sought to pick holes in the Prime Minister's address. They asked why the government has not been able to lift curfew in the Kashmir Valley if only 5% of the people are involved in creating trouble. The Congress said that while the people of the country want a lasting peace in Kashmir, the statement by the Chief Minister of the state does not prove so.
हम इसका खैर मकदम करते हैं इस स्टेटमेंट का, वहीं हम ये भी उम्मीद करते हैं कि उसी स्पिरिट को आगे चलाते हुए कोई ना कोई ऐसा हल निकाला जाएगा जो कि एक परमानेंट सोल्यूशन होगा जम्मू कश्मीर के इस मसले का, और अमन को लाने के लिए सारी कोशिशें की जाएंगी और खून खराबे का ये सिलसिला जो है ये फौरी तौर पे बंद किया जाएगा।
कश्मीर में घाव पर मरहम लगाया जाए। विकास और तरक्की एक महत्वपूर्ण पहलू है, परंतु विश्वास पैदा करना पड़ेगा और जो लोग संविधान के रास्ते से भटक गए हैं उन्हें दोबारा देश की मुख्य धारा में लाना पड़ेगा। हम किसी भी ऐसे सकारात्मक कदम का स्वागत करेंगे।
मैंने खुद कश्मीर के मुख्यमंत्री महोदया महबूबा से बात की। उन्होंने इतना ही कहा कि यहाँ की डेवलपमेंट के बारे में जो बातें करने की आवश्यकता है और जिसकी कमिटमेंट भारत सरकार ने की है वो जल्दी करेंगे तो परिस्थिति में बदलाव लाने के लिए मदद हो जाएगी।
And Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti has said that the approach adopted by former Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the only way to resolve the Kashmir dispute. She also said that if the dispute was not resolved under Prime Minister Narendra Modi, it will never be resolved. She said that her government had hardly completed 3 months when the ongoing cycle of violence in Kashmir started after the killing of Burhan Wani. She said that the rumours were spread against her government on one pretext or the other, but she made it clear that the state has a special place in the heart of India and nobody is going to do anything with that special place. She said that when there is violence, all the freedom is lost. Meanwhile, curfew continues in some parts of Srinagar and 2 towns in South Kashmir, where restrictions on the assembly of people were enforced in the rest of the valley, where the normal life remained paralyzed for the 51st consecutive day on Sunday. Now, 71 people, including 3 policemen, have died in violence since 9th of July, a day after Hizbul militant Burhan Wani was killed by the security forces.
आज मुझे उम्मीद है जो कोशिश होगी वो सही कोशिश होगी और इंशाअल्लाह हम जल्दी इन मुश्किलात से बाहर आएंगे। मुझे उम्मीद है क्योंकि हमारी सबकी नीयत साफ है, लोगों की खिदमत करना चाहते हैं और मेरी उम्मीद है।
And in related news, the Home Minister Rajnath Singh is likely to lead the all-party delegation which will visit Jammu and Kashmir on 3rd of September. Well, with the unrest in the Kashmir Valley continuing for the 51st consecutive day on Sunday, Rajnath Singh reviewed the situation with the top BJP and government functionaries in the national capital. Singh went on a huddle with the BJP President Amit Shah, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley and Minister of State in the PMO Jitendra Singh and discussed with them the modalities of the all-party delegation's visit. The possibility of sending individuals and groups with whom the delegation could interact was also discussed. The government has sounded out to different political parties to convey the names of their representatives who will be a part of the delegation.
दिन से ऊपर हो गए हैं वहाँ कर्फ्यू की स्थिति बनी हुई है, लोग अभी भी कर्फ्यू में रह रहे हैं, तो जल्द से जल्द इस काम को करना चाहिए ताकि जब तक डायलॉग नहीं होगा कश्मीरियों के साथ, वहाँ के जो राजनीतिक दल हैं, वहाँ के जो सामाजिक कार्यकर्ता हैं, संगठन हैं, उनके साथ बातचीत जरूरी है।
Well, that is an initiative that is forward looking, an all party meet, talking to everybody and having that healing touch was essential. But these initiatives could have been done from Srinagar itself. Why get Delhi involved in this? A decision like this could have been taken there and could have been telephonically handled. Why delay? Every minute is costing us lives. People are blinded. People are dying. Curfew has been extended to a record time never seen in Jammu and Kashmir.
All right, let's discuss the situation in Jammu and Kashmir in detail. Senior journalist Parsa Venkateswara Rao Jr. is now joining us in the studio. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this morning on Rajya Sabha television. Sir, after 51 days of curfew now in Kashmir Valley, the central and the state governments finally appear to be coming together on how to engage with the conflict and all the stakeholders involved. What is your analysis of the situation?
I think they are trying what they can in the circumstances. That is, they are reaching out to the people in terms of symbolic gestures. Those softening of the words was required from the Prime Minister, and that affirmation of confidence in the central government by Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti was also required, because it looked like that they were all going each way, that the state government was on its own, the central government was on its own, and there was no coordination. And there was also the feeling that the Indian political class was also not united in its view of the Jammu and Kashmir issue. Now, they have got together, and it is like putting the act together, getting their act together sort of thing. So it took 50 days, but the real problem in Jammu and Kashmir is not holding talks with the separatists. It's not about going out and reaching out to the people. It is only part of the thing. I think the real problem lies elsewhere, and it crops up every 2 years, 3 years, and ends up in this cycle of violence where people die.
Yes.
So one has to address deeply that question, because it's a, you know, it's a temporary response. Telling the Kashmiri people, you are part of India, we care for you, we feel the sorrow of the death of your young people. I mean, those are necessary words, but I am not very sure that that is the real issue at in Jammu and Kashmir, and everybody knows it. The Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Mehbooba Mufti knows it, all the political party leaders know it, that there is something else happening there, and that issue has to be addressed. Who is doing it? Why is it happening? If you talk to any of the Kashmiri insiders, they say it is not an economic problem, it's not a question of unemployment, it's a political problem, we need a political solution. Now, there are no instant political solutions in terms of getting Pakistan to talk about Kashmir or getting the separatists to find a solution. So, I think the air has to be cleared that Jammu and Kashmir has to reconcile. The separatist leaders who are egging on these protesters have to come to terms with the fact that they are part of India, they can assert their autonomy, they can fight the elections, but beyond that there is not much anybody can do. I mean, there is not much that India can do in bringing Pakistan in finding a solution to the Kashmir problem. I think that looks very, and one must be very blunt and very critical about this soft talk about finding solutions. There are no solutions to be found in the sense of reconciling with Pakistan. The only solution that can be found is to assure the people of Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir, that they have all the rights to assert their opinion, to assert their dissent short of violence. I think that is the clear message that has to go out.
But at the moment, we are now hearing that a curfew has now been, in fact, lifted from some places in Jammu and Kashmir. As far as the situation now is concerned, it seems Home Minister Rajnath Singh's visit at least temporarily calmed the air now, an all-party delegation.
Yeah, these gestures were required. These gestures were required, and I think both the central and the state government are doing what they can in the circumstances. They are saying the right words and they are doing the right things.
And now an all-party delegation is going to visit Srinagar to kickstart a political dialogue. So how fruitful you think that this dialogue is going to be?
You know, as far as we have seen, this is not the first time an all-party delegation is going to Srinagar in the aftermath of an outbreak of violence. It has been happening nearly 20 years now, from 1996 onwards. So every time there is trouble in Kashmir Valley, let's not even say Jammu and Kashmir, whenever there is problem in a Kashmir Valley, it gets out of hand, there is a cycle of violence, and at the end of it comes all these political gestures from the local political parties and from the national political parties.
Yes.
But you know, unfortunately, it is very tedious. We have seen it happen again and again and again. So what we have to ask ourselves, and what the political players have to ask themselves is it what is required? What is the real problem? The real problem is the dialogue, the narrative has to change. And the narrative is simply this, that Jammu and Kashmir is part of India, and they can make all the political demands within India. They cannot make a political demand saying solve the Kashmir problem, get Pakistan to talk, and no, that is
and they cannot make any talk on sovereignty.
No, you can only talk about your rights in Kashmir vis-a-vis the political sphere. You can fight elections, you can demand that these elections are unfair, get a fairer election, you can demand everything else, but not say and demand that involve Pakistan. And unfortunately, this is also the underlying talk of both People's Democratic Party of Mehbooba Mufti and to a very mild sense National Conference.
Yes.
And of course, the Hurriyat demands that Pakistan should be brought into the dialogue. Jammu and Kashmir issue has nothing to do with Pakistan. I think that must be made very, very clear. And the situation has to be handled firmly, but with all care and sensitivity.
But
more than that, it cannot. I think this false talk that we will find a solution to Kashmir problem should be given up for once and all, because there is no solution, because we know that Pakistan is very intransigent on the issue and we are not going to find a solution.
But there seems to be a little bit of no consensus really on this matter, because as you just mentioned, there are a few parties that probably want Pakistan to be included in the dialogue, and with the government's tough stance that we have seen of late, especially it has now also brought about the issue of POK. So do you think...
bringing in POK, I think one has to be very realistic. The politicians and parties have things to say which they say. POK is should not be our problem, though politically correct and constitutionally speaking, it might be the case that POK is a disputed area, like Pakistan will make the same thing about Jammu and Kashmir. We have to take the practical stand saying what is within the Indian territory. Jammu and Kashmir is not a disputed area, and we are going to deal with it as any other state. As we deal with Bihar, as we deal with Manipur, Assam, Jammu and Kashmir has no special privilege. Jammu and Kashmir is part of the Indian Union, and within the Indian Union, they can make all the demands.
Absolutely. So to chart a new course, Prime Minister Modi and the Chief Minister of the state, Mehbooba Mufti, but actually chart out and work on a sustained process for dialogue, even as there needs to be a consensus on how to deal with Pakistan. Well, that is the gist of what you're saying. Thank you so much, sir, for coming in the studio this morning and speaking to Rajya Sabha television. Thank you so much. Well, let's move on in the bulletin. Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar will meet his American counterpart, Defence Secretary Ashton Carter, today. Now, Parrikar, who is on his second visit to the United States in 8 months, will hold talks with Carter and carry forward talks on jet engine technology and unmanned aerial vehicles. Well, during his visit, India and the US are set to sign the Logistics Exchange Memorandum of Agreement, which will enable both the countries to use each other's assets and bases for repair and replenishment supplies. Parrikar will also visit the Langley Air Force Base and the Boeing facility in Philadelphia during his 3-day visit. Defence Minister Manohar Parrikar's visit to Washington coincides with US Secretary of State John Kerry's 4-day visit to India, which starts from today. And a French defence firm, DCNS, has moved in Australian court against the newspaper The Australian. Well, the firm seeks an order against The Australian from further publishing the leaked documents of India's Scorpion submarine project. The DCNS has also sought a court order to the newspaper to hand over the documents in its possession and removal of the contents from its website. Over 22,000 pages of top-secret data on the capabilities of 6 highly advanced submarines being built for the Indian Navy in Mumbai in collaboration with the French company were leaked by the Australian newspaper last week. And in Breakfast News, we'll take a very short break. We'll be back with more news. Stay tuned.
The sacred relics of Buddha were unearthed in Piprava in Uttar Pradesh. Buddhist monks from all over the world visit the National Museum to pay their respects. These charred bone fragments of Buddha are housed in the gold canopy gifted by the royal family of Thailand.
Welcome back after the break. Now a look at the flood situation across several states in the country. Well, in Bihar, the flood situation has worsened in eastern parts of the state. Now, Bhagalpur, Khagaria and Munger are the worst affected districts. Over 37 lakh people have been affected in 12 districts by the floods so far. 3 more people died in flood-related incidents in the state, taking the toll to 156. Now, Chief Minister Nitish Kumar inspected relief camps in Bhagalpur. The centre has asked the state to submit a memorandum on the losses so far and has assured all help will be provided. Meanwhile, in Uttar Pradesh, the Ganga and Yamuna rivers have been receding with no fresh rainfall, but they are still flowing above their respective danger marks at several places. Around 8.7 lakh people in 987 villages in Varanasi, Allahabad, Ghazipur and Balia remain affected due to floods. The relief and rescue operations are on, and the state government has also alerted the health department to check any outbreak of diseases. Meanwhile, as far as West Bengal is concerned, the flood situation in the state's Malda district remains unchanged, with the Ganga water level standing static at 48 centimeters above the extreme danger level. In West Midnapur, crops of more than 500 acres farming land have been destroyed by floodwaters.
हाउस डैमेज, क्रॉप डैमेज, प्रभावित लोगों की सूची, पुल पुलिया का टूटना, बिजली का पोल टूटना, सड़क का टूटना, इन सबों का सर्वे करके जल्द से जल्द सरकार को अपनी रिपोर्ट भेजनी चाहिए, तो उसके अनुपालन में केंद्र सरकार कार्रवाई करेगी।
हमें जहां मदद करनी चाहिए, हम 20,000 से ज्यादा लोगों को बचाने का काम किया एनडीआरएफ के द्वारा। तो जो केंद्र का दायित्व है, जो केंद्र का काम है, वो हम कर रहे हैं। पैसे देने के भी काम कर रहे हैं, अनाज देने का काम कर रहे हैं, लेकिन जमीन पर उतारना तो पड़ेगा राज्य सरकार को। राज्य सरकार केवल कह रही है, जमीनों पर दिख नहीं रहा है।
এখন যে অবস্থায় দাঁড়িয়েছে যে এই তো কয়েকশো একর জমি জলের তলায়, মানে সেসব ফসল ক্ষয়ক্ষতি হয়ে গেছে। হ্যাঁ, ক্ষতিগ্রস্তরা একটা তো দিতেই হবে, না হলে তো এই যে ক্ষতি হয়েছে আর সীমানিমা নাই তাদের। এখন মানে এই বন্যা মরার পর যে দেখবে যে সব ফসল শেষ, তখন এবার দুর্ভিক্ষের পরিস্থিতি।
Moving on to some international news, and at least 40 people have been killed as Turkey continues to target Kurdish-held areas in Syria near the border city of Jarablus. Well, the Turkish military said that those killed in Sunday's airstrikes were Kurdish militants. However, a monitoring group said that at least 35 civilians and 4 militants were killed. The strikes came on the 5th day of Turkey's military operation to target Islamic State militants and Kurdish militia inside Syria. Well, the increase in offensive came after Islamic State militants killed 54 people at a Kurdish wedding last week in Gaziantep, a city close to the Syrian border. Now, Ankara also wants to force the Kurds to withdraw to the east of Euphrates River, stopping short of establishing a corridor to link two Kurdish-held areas in northwest Syria. Hence, it is targeting both Islamic State and Kurds with its airstrikes. Now, President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said that operations against terrorist organizations will continue till the end.
Suriye ve Irak'tan temizlenmesi için yürütülen çalışmalara her türlü katkıyı vereceğiz. Cerablus'ta bunun için varız. Başika'da bunun için varız. Gerekirse diğer bölgelerde de aynı şekilde sorumluluk üstlenmekten kaçınmayacağız.
And 5 days after the conclusion of peace negotiations in Havana since 2012, the main leftist rebel groups in Colombia, the FARC or FARC, announced definitive ceasefire and cessation of hostilities. The ceasefire comes into effect from Sunday, midnight local time, and it brings to an end the group's 52-year-old war. Now, Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos signed a decree earlier to halt military operations against the FARC, also from midnight. Now, the final peace agreement will be signed in the next few weeks. Now, under the terms of the agreement, the FARC will give up its armed struggle and join the legal political process. The signing of agreement will be followed by a 6-month demobilization process wherein guerrilla fighters will gather at collection points and give up their weapons under UN supervision. Now, close to 260,000 Colombians have died and millions internally displaced since 1964 as the rebel armies and gangs have battled in the jungles in what is considered Latin America's last major civil armed conflict.
Más que nunca lamentamos tanta muerte y dolor ocasionados por la guerra. Hoy, más que nunca, queremos abrazarlos como compatriotas y comenzar a trabajar unidos por la nueva Colombia. Se acabó la guerra.
And Brazil's impeachment battle is all set to reach a dramatic climax today as country's first female president, Dilma Rousseff, is today make a last stand before a hostile Senate or the upper house. The Workers' Party leader, who was suspended from the presidency in the month of May, is scheduled to testify in her own defense today. During this, she is scheduled to give evidence in her defense and also may face grilling questions from senators. The upper house will then vote on whether to remove her from office for alleged fiscal irregularities. Now, Rousseff denies that she broke the law and she brands the impeachment a coup by her conservative rivals. Now, those include the man set to replace her, former Vice President and interim head of state Michel Temer. Protests for and against Rousseff broke out during previous steps in the impeachment process over the recent months.
Politicamente, a Dilma já não tem mais chance. Aí, na minha concepção, eu acho que só faltava a canetada final e dar o Temer logo como presidente.
Olha, eu tenho esperança de uma mudança econômica no Brasil. Eu, como empresário, sofri muito durante esses 2 últimos anos com essa recessão e espero agora que o novo governo possa estar ajustando tudo e melhorando a economia do país.
On to some sports news. Well, the US Open kicks off today and Novak Djokovic is the defending champion in the men's singles event, while Italian Flavia Planeta is the current champion in the women's singles event. Now, she, however, will not be able to defend her title as she retired at the end of the 2015 season. In the men's singles, Novak Djokovic, Andy Murray and Rafael Nadal among the top contenders. Other contenders are likely to be world number 3 Stan Wawrinka, a 2-time semi-finalist, 6th ranked Milos Raonic and world number 7 Kei Nishikori. Meanwhile, in the women's singles, Serena Williams mashed Steffi Graf's open-era record of 22 Grand Slam singles titles with her triumph at the Wimbledon in the month of July. And with the 7th US Open triumph, she can break Steffi Graf's record and continue her march towards Australian Margaret Court's all-time mark of 24 Grand Slam titles. And a 2nd seed Angelique Kerber, 3rd seed Garbine Muguruza and 4th seed Radwanska are among the top contenders. Meanwhile, India's Saket Maineni has also entered the singles main draw and he will take on Czech Jiří Veselý in the first round. Now, if Maineni gets past the round, he is likely to face world number 1 Novak Djokovic in the 2nd round. On to some cricket news. Well, it was a disappointing end to the 2-match series between India and West Indies as the final T20 international was abandoned due to rain at Florida on Sunday. Well, West Indies won the series 1-0 by virtue of their dramatic 1-run victory in the first game. Well, after electing to bowl first, Indian bowlers produced a much improved performance to bundle out West Indies for 143 in 19.4 overs. And as soon as India chase began, the rain started. Rohit Sharma and Ajinkya Rahane were at the crease with India on 15 for no loss when the covers were brought in and the match was stopped after 2 overs in the 2nd innings. Earlier, the match started after a delay of 40 minutes due to some technical issues. The result, though, have no impact on the standings of the 2 teams in the ICC T20 rankings as India remained at the 2nd spot ahead of West Indies. Well, that's all in this edition of news, but news and updates continue on Rajya Sabha TV. Thanks for watching.